She stood strong and said enough. It was one young woman who has changed the way the United States now handles sexual assault cases. Amanda Nguyen was a student at Harvard when she was raped. After reporting the attack, she followed police procedure and waited for justice to take its course. But she found that there was a catch. She learned that the rape kit she'd submitted to would have to be renewed every 6 months to prevent authorities from discarding it. Every 6 months. As a result, she was forced to relive that trauma. Angered by her ordeal, concerned for others, Amanda went on to create the national civil rights nonprofit RISE. The organization helped draft the Sexual Assault Survivors' Rights Act that was later signed into law by President Obama. And Amanda joins us now to talk about all of this. Amanda, welcome. Thank you for spending some time with us.
Thank you for having me.
So you experienced this horrible event. What most shocked and surprised you initially that ended up motivating you to get so actively involved?
I remember walking into my local area rape crisis center, and there were so many people in that waiting room. And I thought to myself...
Which by itself is very troubling.
Right. And I thought to myself, if this is what I'm going through, and I have the resources that I do, what is everybody else going through? And that's when I realized that my story is not mine alone. And I figured the way out of this is not only to try to get justice for myself, but also try to rewrite the law so that no one has to go through what I had to go through.
It's one thing for somebody who, as a victim to be troubled by the process, to be so concerned and frustrated and angry by the process. It's another thing to say, I'm going to do something about it. All right. So how then did you get started? How did RISE get started?
I want people to understand that they have a right to petition the government. You know, the United States government, democracy, serves the people. That's where the power is. And what that means is with systematic, relentless organizing, one can actually make a difference in their community. And I made the decision to share my story.
Which is not an easy decision to do.
It isn't.
You put yourself at the center of a movement, but in order to be effective, you have to reveal very painful parts of your experience.
For me, it was a conscious decision that was made thoughtfully and carefully, one that was informed by my meetings with policy legislative staffers who, when I gave them statistics, would not look up from their phones. And as soon as I said, actually, I'm not talking only about the legality of this, I'm talking about this from a personal standpoint, because I'm a survivor, they would look up from their phones. And I realized...
All of a sudden, there's a face.
That's right. And there's a human connection to it. And I realized, okay, it's one thing to have written a policy model bill, and it's another thing to show that this is a real issue that affects real people.
Let's talk about the act, the law itself that was mentioned, signed into law by President Obama. What are some of the more significant aspects of that people should know about?
Yeah, so it's a Bill of Rights. The way that the RISE team wrote it is by gathering rights that already had legal precedence, that were supported unanimously, and were non-controversial. So these things are the right to not have your evidence destroyed before the statute of limitations at the very least.
Which is probably shocking to people. You and I were talking, I was a prosecutor, was involved in these cases, and the notion of any evidence being destroyed,
right,
while there is still a window to prosecute somebody, is fairly shocking.
The other thing I have to add on this particular right is that there is a double standard. In Massachusetts, where my case was, convicted rapists have the right to hold on to the evidence for the duration of their conviction, but survivors did not. Yeah.
Did you find that people, when you were approaching legislators, did you find that many of them that didn't even know some of these facts?
Most, actually all of them. As soon as people heard about it, they said, how is this still a thing? And it's largely because the criminal justice system is a labyrinth. You know, I felt like the Massachusetts criminal justice system set up a Kafkaesque game for me to play. And it was after learning that so many other survivors actually had their kits destroyed or were going through something very similar to me that I decided to rewrite the law. So the Bill of Rights includes other non-controversial things like the right to have access to your own medical report as a patient from the rape kit examination. Here's another example and another right that's in the bill. It's the right to have access to your own police report.
Let me talk about your approach a little bit here. And part of it is traditional, lobbying legislators. But you've done some other things. You've engaged in these, I guess it's called Funny or Die videos. And I watched some of them. And I watched one of them that had a significant impact. And it was talking about your rape survivor belt. It was like the Batman superpower belt, without trying to be terribly facetious about it.
No.
But you use humor.
Yes.
As your a weapon in your arsenal.
Yes.
All right. Why did you find and why did you decide to take this approach also as part of this crusade you're on?
Well, we wanted to get this information out to as many people as possible. And in order to do that, we wanted to make it entertaining. We put people who had high profiles, celebrities, who cared about the issue, and then coupled that with smart writing. We are so grateful to the Funny or Die team.
Right.
Humor has the ability to make things that are difficult go down a little easier. And that's what this subject is. It's difficult. So how do you get people engaged and want to see something when it's hard to hear about?
What's next for you? What are the next things that you and RISE are looking to do here?
We were really strategic with passing a federal law. The federal law does grant civil rights to 25 million rape survivors in the United States. But as the Me Too movement has shown, this is probably a low ball estimate. And we have to do more. So the federal law impacts cases that are tried in federal court. And the majority of rape cases are tried in state court.
State courts, right.
So the reason why we did it on the federal level is because we wanted to show that if the United States Congress, as polarizing as it is, could stand together unanimously on something, then people in their own communities, in the state houses, can also do that too. And our federal law passed in 7 months, unanimously on a roll call vote in both chambers of Congress.
When does that ever happen, by the way?
I can tell
Nowadays,
you,
yeah.
we are the 21st bill in U.S. history to have done so.
Which should send a message by itself to the various states saying,
Exactly.
take a good look and let's do something about this.
So to answer your question, RISE's next step is to ensure equality under the law for rape survivors. That means passing this bill in all 50 states.
Right. Well, Amanda Nguyen, we certainly applaud your courage and the work you've done for a lot of people out there.
Thank you.
Good luck to you. Be well.
Thank you.